What's going on, guys? Pete Nova here with the Faceoff Sports Network. I am joined by Matt and Coach from the FF Mediators. And today we're going to do a 3-round rookie mock draft. We're going to go ahead and pick 1, 2, 3. Each of us just taking hands and taking, why did I say taking hands? Each of us are going to take turns, taking a pick and moving on to the next. But yeah, guys, how we doing? Coach, why don't you start off first? How are you liking your draft for your Bears?
Oh man, I hate it. Loveland's fine. Like I'm fine with that. I would have rather had Warren personally. Luther Burden, I'm a big Luther Burden fan. Like I think Luther Burden's a good player. I don't love him for my Bears. And then after that, I'm really just grossed out by the rest of it. I can't even talk about it.
Okay. Matt, Commanders, what about you, man?
I'm okay with it. I mean, we took a tackle. We got Amos in the second round. I think we got pretty good value for him. We'll see what Jalen Lane develops into, maybe more of a gadgety guy. He's a heck of a returner, so I think he's going to show up on special teams. And then when you think about it, too, their other picks were essentially Debo and Laramie Tunsil. So this team's kind of solidified themselves and added some more depth and definitely reassured that offensive line. So I'm excited for it.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, why don't we just, like I said, just go right into it. Let me go ahead and share my screen real quick and pull up the draft board. All right. Beautiful. And let's see, do we want us in this view or maybe we'll, let's see. Ooh, no, definitely not that one. There you go. Cool. Is that close enough? Can we see the board well enough? Can you guys see it well on your side?
Yeah, I'm all good.
Yeah, we're good.
All right, cool. All right, so I'll just do the boring, I'll start it off here. Maybe make sure draft settings wise, no clock. Yeah, take the clock off and update that.
Change the snake, Pete.
Oh, there you go. We should be good. And then, I'll just have to click and select here. All right, we'll start off nice and easy. Ashton Genty at the 101. Look, we could talk a little bit about Genty. I don't want to just not spend any time on this, but I think it's a good landing spot, right? He finds his way in the Pete Carroll system, and Pete Carroll finds his guy. We know Pete Carroll is a run-first kind of minded coach, and Genty finds his way into an offense that, the offensive line is not the best. But he's going to get a ton of opportunities in this offense, and I think he's a clear consensus 101. I don't think you're going to really get much pushback from anybody else. What about you guys? Anything else that you want to add here?
No, easy pick. He's the 101 for now.
Okay,
yeah,
cool,
without doubt.
All right, well, Matt, since you spoke up first, why don't you go ahead and take the second player off the board for us?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Travis Hunter. I think that he's got the most upside. I know you're shaking your head. There's certainly an argument for Cam Ward if you need a quarterback and you're in a SuperFlex league. So I'm not going to fault you if you go that route. But for me, I think Travis Hunter is the best wide receiver. I like what I've heard from the GM and the coaching staff where they plan to use him as a wide receiver. So I'm not scared of him pairing with Brian Thomas and being with Trevor Lawrence. In fact, I think it's a good thing. So I am more than comfortable taking Travis Hunter at the 102.
Okay. Coach, what are your thoughts? Travis Hunter 102, is that?
Yeah, I like it. I like that too. Me and Matt, I said this weeks ago, like Travis Hunter's so dynamic and it looks like he's going to play a ton of wide receiver. He's the most talented player out there outside of Genty to me. So that's an easy pick for me. If I move into the next one's where it gets a little difficult for me. Like it depends on kind of what you need. Like if you need a quarterback, you got to be thinking Cam Ward in this spot. But I do think for me, like I'm going to go with Marion Hampton right here with the Chargers. Like I really like that spot for him. Like, he's going to get a lot of carries with Harbaugh. Like you got to feel really good if you're a Chargers fan to have Hampton where you got him.
Yeah, I mean, I think quarterback or not, for me, it's still like even if you're needy or not, I think you have to take Cam Ward at the 103 just because of the amount of value that quarterbacks hold. I think the argument could be made if you're a big Travis Hunter fan, I can understand maybe taking him there just because he's so special at the 102. over Cam Ward, but I feel like Ward, for me at least, would have to be at the 103 just because, look, with the legs and the rushing upside, quarterbacks just hold so much value, right? If Omarion Hampton has a year where they're splitting time and they re-sign Najee Harris to an extension, Omarion Hampton's value probably drops to, a late first rounder, maybe early second rounder next year if he doesn't have the year that you're hoping for. If it's more of a split, and if Najee Harris comes back, right? There are factors that could have that happen. Where with Cam Ward, I mean, for me, if I didn't need Cam Ward, I would maybe look to see if I could move back a spot before taking Hampton in this situation, just because even if Cam Ward has a sluggish year, I think the leg upside will help him at least retain value. And I think he's still going to hold that first round pick because he's insulated, if you decide to move on after 1 year. Matt, any thoughts on that? Or
Yeah, I think the Hampton pick, I certainly understand it. I think a long-term play, it's probably a good move. I'm not actually too scared of Najee Harris. I think they're going to eat into each other a little bit. Yeah, maybe the upside's capped year one, but let's remember Najee's on a 1-year deal. Harbaugh went after Hampton, drafted him early in the first round, and we know he loves to run the ball. So I think Hampton long-term, especially in Dynasty, is going to be a great play. So 103, I'm fine with it, Coach. Pete, I also hear what you're saying of the quarterback value is so high. And a lot of times these teams picking this early typically have a need at quarterback. So there's a good chance that he could probably fall within the 102 to 104.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like I said, I mean, I'm kind of with you both. I actually really like the landing spot, so I think what Coach said is fair. I'm not super concerned about Najee. I'm just trying to think overall value. And I try to get as much value as I can. And if there's an opportunity to trade back to somebody who might need Cam Ward, I would try to do that before going with Hampton there. But it's totally fair. I'll go ahead and select my next player here, which will be Cam Ward, who probably don't have to take too much time to talk about just because, we just pretty much shared our feelings and opinions on him. But like he joins an
I do
offense.
feel like
Oh,
I do feel like the Titans have done a good job of trying to get him some help here in the later rounds. They've drafted multiple wide receivers to try to get him some weapons and a tight end. Like they're doing what they can to try to get him some pieces around them.
Yeah, I mean, look, they bring in Tyler Lockett, right? Who, to some, right, people might think he's washed or it can't provide much value. I don't really believe that. I think Tyler Lockett is still a guy that can contribute. And then look, they took Ayu Manor as well. I'm trying to see who was the other guy that they took in the draft here. I don't think they took a running back.
DK.
Okay.
Jahmyr DK, the wide receiver from Florida. Really, really athletic. Kind of has a little bit of a raw potential, a lot of clay molding, if you will. So I think there's some potential there. I do like Ayu Manor, though. I mean, if you go back and look, he had great tape against Travis Hunter. Only a 2-year player at Stanford, so kind of didn't have a lot of time to develop, but they had terrible quarterback play. So he's an interesting prospect to me.
Yeah, and we'll probably talk about Ayu Manor a little bit more because I'm sure he's going to get selected at some point. But yeah, I think overall, I think they've given him some help there for sure. Matt, what do you have here for the next pick?
Yeah, this is kind of where you hit that point of, do you want to go after Travion Henderson, maybe Judkins? But I'm going to stick with the player that was taken in the top 10, and I'm going to go with Ted McMillan. That capital at 8 overall to the Panthers, I think, is pretty significant. There's a wide open race for him to be the wide receiver 1 for this team. I mean, he's competing with Adam Thielen and Xavier Legette. So I like the landing spot. I think he's going to have immediate potential and probably some pretty high fantasy relevance as we move into year 1.
Coach,
yeah,
any thoughts?
Yeah, you totally couldn't get a better landing spot for Ted McMillan, in my opinion. I mean, it's possible he walks in the door as wide receiver 1 there. There's not a lot of competition. It's Coker, Legette, Thielen. I mean, I really love Ted McMillan. I think it gives Bryce Young a good weapon. Like, I was surprised that he went so high. Like, there are other receivers I personally would have rather had, but you can't find a better spot if you're Ted McMillan to come in and make an impact early. So let's see. Moving. Go ahead, Pete.
No, I'm kind of with you there. I think I think unless you're just not really a believer in Bryce Young, I could understand maybe the being nervous there. But overall, I mean, a lot of targets to be had in this room. David Moore, we talked about this yesterday, but David Moore leaves 57 open targets. Deontay Johnson 58. Tommy Tremble and Jatavion Sanders combined for over 70. Miles Sanders is gone. He had 30. Jarvis Mingo had 26. There are targets to be had in this room. I mean, I think it's a great landing spot as well. He kind of gets his Mike Evans, Canales in this offense.
Yeah, 100%. Moving to my pick, though, this is where for me, I'm thinking you gotta go Travion Henderson right here, in my opinion. In New England, he's gonna get carries. Ramondre is Ramondre. I really like this pick by New England, who I think has had a phenomenal draft. They've done a really good job of just nailing players left and right throughout the rounds, from one round to the next. I mean, they've got a lot of weapons, a lot of pieces that can really help them long term. Yeah, I like Travion Henderson a lot.
Yeah, so do I. I do want to ask Matt. I mean, Matt, we talked about this off air, and then we have a question from Dean, and we'll grab that in a second. But Matt, with Travion Henderson, Quinshon Judkins is likely going to go off the board here soon. Maybe this spoils your next pick since you're up next, or no, I'm up next. But regardless, Quinshon Judkins, I mean, do you lean one way or the other here? I mean, Judkins looks like he finds himself in a much easier path to production earlier on, but do you have a lean between him or Henderson?
I would lean Henderson. I had that prior to the draft as well, but after seeing the landing spots, I'm going to chase the Patriots offense as opposed to this quarterback carousel in Cleveland. What's going to happen? They did draft Sampson, so there's a running mate with him. I know who's going to be in New England, and that's Ramondre and Antonio Gibson, and I'm not worried about both of those. Both of them have had their different issues, including fumbling. Henderson is a pass pro phenomenon. I could talk days about that. I mean, he's fantastic back there. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. I think he's going to be great in this offense. They drafted a left tackle, so I'm much happier with Travion Henderson over Judkins, in my opinion.
Okay. And we have a question here from Dean. Dean said, I have the 102 and the 104 wide receiver needy. Should I take Travis first and pray Tet falls? I think that's a fine game plan. I think no matter in pretty much all drafts, if you're at the 104, Tet or Hunter should be available, right? Unless it's not a super flex. Because you got to assume Cam Ward's likely going to go in the top 4 picks. If he doesn't, then look, you get Cam Ward and maybe you trade him to a team that needs a quarterback and you can pry away a nice veteran wide receiver. But I think I'd be comfortable. Look, I think there's arguments for Tet. There's arguments for Travis Hunter. I prefer Tet over Travis Hunter right now. I know Matt and Coach prefer Tet. But either way, whichever guy you pick at the 102, if you don't get the second guy at the 104, that likely means Cam Ward fell to you, maybe Omarion Hampton. No, actually, it would be Hunter, Genty, right? And then if Tet fell, Cam Ward would be available, right? Because Genty's going to go no matter what. And if you have the 104 and Hunter and Tet aren't available, right? Cam Ward, that would mean would be available. So I think you could definitely, take a swing on which player you think is better, which one you prefer. And then there's a good chance one of them should be available. And if not, you probably take Cam Ward and you trade that to a team that needs a quarterback. And you should be able to get a good return back for a veteran wide receiver if you're in a situation where you need one. You guys agree?
Totally agree. Or even just slide back and get another wide receiver.
Yeah.
Like, I just feel like you got to take Travis Hunter there at the 102. Like, I think you have to take the most talented player right there and hope Tet falls to you. Like, I would imagine Cam Ward would go before Tet there. I just got to grab the more talented guy myself. I'm not a big Tet fan. We know Pete likes him a little better than we do, but it is what it is.
No, I think that's fair. And yeah, I think this is gonna be an arguments that go back and forth for a while. And it should be fun, right? This is why we do it, right? And it should be a fun part of the off season. Now, moving to the 107, that would be my pick here. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Quinshon Judkins, right? I mean, I know Matt, and we kind of just talked about him, right? And that's why I brought him up, because to me, I would take Judkins here. I think, I know Matt alluded to the frustrations in this quarterback room, but I think there's enough guys that this offense, while will it be amazing? No, but it's not going to be, us watching Desmond Ridder with, lead that Saints offense last year, where it's just such a bad situation. I trust Kevin Stefanski. I trust them to be able to get the ball in Judkins' hands. And I think the biggest concern with him is, look, they just drafted maybe Dylan Sampson. And if you believe in Dylan Sampson, maybe he's a guy that can take away the receiving work. But I think Judkins was a better receiver than people gave him credit for. I just think Henderson was just that much that good as receiving as a receiving back, that's why Henderson got the bulk of that. But I think Judkins is more than capable to catch the football. I know this offensive line took a little bit of a step back in regression, but I think the volume is going to be very, very strong for Judkins. And you can make the argument for Caleb Johnson, who's eventually going to get drafted here as well. I think the difference is I trust Judkins as offensive coordinator. I trust his offense more, which sounds crazy to say. And I also just trust that Judkins is going to have a role in the pass game as well. Coach, Matt,
I think it's a good pick.
Yeah.
I like it. I mean, the value's there. Yes, they drafted Sampson, but Judkins had the clear capital, so I think he's going to be the guy. I mean, let's not forget, they had their choice to take Travion Henderson if they wanted him, and they chose Judkins. And that kind of leans more into that Nick Chubb role, in my opinion.
Yeah. Coach, any other thoughts for you there, or?
Nah, yeah, I'm the same there. I am interested to see what happens with Nick Chubb. I mentioned to Matt, it wouldn't surprise me for the Bears to sign Nick Chubb. That's interesting to me.
Yeah. I could definitely see it. I mean, you have J.K. Dobbins, who doesn't have a team either right now, who had a pretty good year last year. But all right, here at the 108, Matt, you're up. I feel like I have a feeling where you're going here, but what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, this is ordinarily where we would just say, oh, you're going to take Tyler Warren. This is great value. But these tight ends, not the best landing spot. I mean, he's in Indianapolis. Quarterback play, don't necessarily love it. Loveland goes to the Bears. I'm not necessarily intrigued with that because they drafted Luther Burden. So it's just kind of a tough situation. If there's a certain tight end premium boost, you might be interested in making that. But I'm going to go with the first-round wide receiver, and it's not Emeka Egbuka. It's Matthew Golden. I think there's a real shot for him to be the guy. I could certainly entertain.
I am shocked by this. I am blown away by this. I never saw this coming at all.
I just think that he's got the runway to be the guy. First wide receiver taken in the first round since 2002. I'm going to take the shot. I like Golden. I like the tape. It's a good fit.
Coach, your thoughts?
Yeah. Golden is a really good player. I know Matt loves him, and I give him crap about it. But Golden is a really good player. He's fast. They don't spend this kind of capital on a receiver. He's right. The only concern would be, is Matt LaFleur's style the issue? You know what I mean? Does he love to spread the ball around so much that he's not going to force feed anybody? And if that's true, then that's concerning. But Golden definitely has the talent.
So it's interesting because, I mean, when they had Devontae Adams, I mean, LaFleur found ways to get his best player of the football consistently, right? So I think it just has to do with the fact that this team was hoping guys would step up, and guys were super inconsistent. A lot of drops, and everyone wanted Jaden Reed to be that guy. Christian Watson had his moments, but he's always injured, and he dropped the football a ton too. Jaden Reed is a guy that's his route tree is limited, and then you have Tavian Wicks, who, I mean, the dude probably has the worst hands on the team. Romeo Doubs is the guy in that room that nobody ever wants. He's like the James Conner of wide receivers, where nobody wants him, but he's the steady heartbeat where, yeah, he gives you, 5 catches, 60 yards a game. That's Romeo Doubs. He's just there, right? But I think Golden's fine. I don't know if I would take Golden here. I think I would probably take him maybe a couple picks back, but I don't think you can question the capital. And I think me and Matt talked about it yesterday, but I actually like the landing spot for him. I know people aren't exactly super excited, but there's not a lot of rooms in the NFL that don't have talent. Every room has talent in some way, shape, or form. And the ones that don't, there's far and few between. And those teams have a lot more needs than just wide receiver. So I'm fine with it there. Coach, you're here at the 109. What do you got?
Yeah, but now it does. I do wonder. You talked about Devontae Adams and LaFleur feeding him the ball. Like, was that LaFleur? Or was that Aaron Rodgers? Because it seems Devontae Adams has never been force fed the ball unless Aaron Rodgers was the one doing it, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is where, to me, like, it's the tight end battle for me right here, especially if you're in a tight end premium league. I'm obviously I'm a little biased right here, but my bias is actually not going to be towards Colston Loveland because he's playing for the Bears. I'm really going to take Colston Loveland over Ty Warren because that Warren has Anthony Richardson throwing him the ball. Like, it's a problem in Indy. I don't think Loveland and Kmet are going to be splitting it like they think. They took Loveland at the 10 pick. Loveland's going to be the tight end. Like, that's the plan. Kmet was not good last year at all, and not just catching the ball. I heard somebody say, like, Loveland's a better receiver and Kmet's an inline blocker. No, Kmet's not. If you watched him block, you would know. Loveland's going to be the guy. I think I'm taking Colston Loveland right here.
Okay. Matt, any pushback? I have some thoughts, but I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I mean, it's an upside play. I think there's a lot to like about Loveland and being paired with Caleb Williams going forward. I think that I would probably entertain Ibuka over him and maybe even Caleb Johnson. But I do think that we also have to start thinking about what do we do with these quarterbacks? When do we take Jackson Dart? When do we take Tyler Shuck? Because they both have opportunities to play, but it's just kind of a little uncertain of how soon it will be.
Yeah, I think look, I would have taken Jackson Dart. I'll take Jackson Dart next, just because the way I start to gauge some of these guys, I look at Colston Loveland, right? You're bringing Luther Burden, who's another mouth to feed, right? Do they eventually bring in a running back? We'll see what happens in this room. But I mean, I don't think Loveland is going to be a guy that's going to make a year one impact for you. And so at that case, I'd rather take Emeka Egbuka, right? I'd rather take a guy who you're probably thinking is not making a year one impact as well, right? Who you're banking on the talent of a guy like Emeka Egbuka. And I would take Jackson Dart just because you can make the same argument for Dart, right? Like, does he have a year one impact? Maybe not, because maybe he doesn't start year one, but he's got first round capital and he's a quarterback. I'm fine with Loveland going at the 109. I don't think it's crazy. I think in a lot of drafts he's going to. I just think for me, Egbuka and Dart would be guys that I would currently be taking ahead of him. I'm going to go with Dart just for the positional value. I don't know why I keep typing it in here because I can't pick it from there. I have to pick it from here.
Well, here's my thing about my thing about Dart here is, like, if you're picking at the back end right here, you probably have a really solid squad and you're trying to solidify your chance to win it again. Like, Dart may not play at all this year. Like, that's very
fair.
possible.
Yeah, that's fair.
I really like Dart early 201, 112. If you've got space for him, I get it. Like, I'm all about the value of the first round quarterbacks myself, but it's just going to come back to what your team needs at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely does. I think for this exercise, it's really just about kind of trying to pick, the best players, and that makes sense, right? Because it's hard. We're not really picking for a specific team. And I honestly, look, there's a lot of teams where you might have Patrick Mahomes and be a contender. And, I mean, like, Patrick Mahomes is pretty much a fringe QB1 at the moment in terms of points per game, right? But neither here nor there. I think Dart's the guy I would take there. I'd be curious. I know,
like, there's a world Shuck has a bigger impact this year than Dart, possibly.
Yeah, but that's like that's the type of thing where it's like, at that point, I'd rather trade for like a Geno Smith, right? If I need a guy that's going to help me this year, is it Shuck or Geno Smith? I'd rather go with Geno over Shuck, just because I don't know how much runway Shuck's going to have to hold down that job. But I know I kind of jumped off of Loveland quickly to Dart. Are there any thoughts though? I mean, I know with the Loveland thing, with Dart and Igbuka, can you see the argument at least for those two guys over Loveland, or is that something that you're kind of dead set on, Coach, in terms of his spot where he's at?
No, I get it. I mean, I get the Igbuka. I think a lot of it just comes down to personal preference in there. I do like Loveland. I do think Loveland, you were going to get Loveland at 202, especially if it happened before the draft. Now he may move up some, so it's just kind of reading the room. Is it tight end premium? Is it not?
Yeah.
So I mean, I understand it because to me, really talented. That's just a really crowded wide receiver room.
Yeah, which then that's kind of my thing. I mean, you figure like, we could touch a little bit more on Igbuka when he gets selected. I do want to pull this up since we just talked about Shuck, and Shador obviously is not picked currently, and Shador was a guy that was mocked in the first round in rookie drafts too. What are your thoughts, both of you, on Shador and Shuck? I mean, do you have Shuck ahead of Shador just because of draft capital, or do you feel comfortable with Shador?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The NFL spoke very loud, whether we want to read into it or not, or attribute certain things negatively or positively, whatever you want to say. I think it speaks volumes, and I'm going to go with Shuck. You can't deny that the Saints had every opportunity to take whoever they wanted, and they chose with Tyler Shuck.
And let's not forget, the Browns drafted another quarterback ahead of Sanders that they're going to be paying even more money.
Mm-hmm.
That is true. All right, let's move on here. Matt, 111. What are you going here?
Yeah, I mean, this is tough. It's if I'm a team that's kind of got two quarterbacks and maybe my roster's set, I would entertain Tyler Shuck here. I think that positional value, as much as we're going to give Dart the credit, Shuck probably deserves it too. I mean, he's going into a room where is Derek Carr going to play or not? So he might get the wheels up right away, whereas Dart's kind of a later play. But I'm going to go with Emeka Egbuka. I think he's one of the safer players in this class. Yes, it's a crowded wide receiver room, but this is good for Baker Mayfield going forward in the future. I mean, how many more years does Mike Evans have? I wouldn't put too many there. Chris Godwin, is he going to be in the slot, or is he going to slide back outside? And Egbuka maybe has that role. So I'm going to take the chance on the first-round wide receiver.
Okay. Yeah, I think I made my kind of thoughts known on Egbuka already, so no reason for me to dive back into it. But, Coach, what are your thoughts?
I mean, I agree with everything Matt just said. I mean, it's a longer-term play, just and he's got all the talent in the world. Like, to me, I do like this pick a lot. Mike Evans is maybe another year, I would really hate this pick if I was a McMillan owner. Like, that would – oh, my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, we went from McMillan, and I know we've talked about it privately, but we went from McMillan being the wide receiver 2 in this offense to being a guy that a lot of people were excited about in startups.
Yeah.
A month and a half ago, to Chris Godwin signing an extension that was pretty hefty, $44 million guaranteed. And then they drafted Mika Egbuka, right? I mean, Jalen McMillan is likely relegated to like the 5th or 6th pass catcher in this offense, in an offense that had 2 running backs catch 50 passes last year. And Cade Otton took a step forward. But there are a lot of injuries to these 2 wide receivers. So, that should open up some runway, but I would think it'd be more excited for Egbuka than I would be for McMillan, who, crazy enough, McMillan, before Godwin was signed, McMillan probably was being had for somewhere around a late first at the turn, maybe an early second rookie pick before Godwin. So it's crazy that now his new running mate is kind of finding himself here at the 111. Coach, you're here at the 112. Why don't you close us out in the first round?
Oh man, I'm looking around like, gosh, I really like Caleb Johnson. I like his draft spot. I like Pittsburgh needs a running back. Obviously, who knows what's going on at quarterback for them right now. So I think they're going to be running the football again like crazy. I don't see this offense being anything that's extremely wide open by any stretch. So I see Caleb Johnson getting a ton of touches. I really like this slot for him.
Matt, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like it too. I mean, we see Najee Harris moving on. That's 260 plus attempts that are up for grabs. And I think Caleb Johnson, he just kind of slides right into that Najee Harris role. They look a lot alike. They do similar things. And, Coach made the joke yesterday. It's the same dang uniform. He didn't have to do anything. So I like the pick here, Coach.
It really is the same uniform.
I honestly think this is like a perfect fit for what Arthur Smith wants. I think my biggest concern with Caleb Johnson is just like, is he going to be a guy that requires a lot of volume? Because Jaylen Warren likely is going to be the guy that gets a lot of the passing down work. And, we don't know about Caleb Johnson in terms of as a receiver. I don't want to say he can't catch the football, because he was in an offense that doesn't really throw the football a ton to the running back or to receivers in general in Iowa. But I think it's a really good fit. I just think, is his ceiling what we saw with Najee Harris when Najee wasn't catching as many footballs in this offense in the last year or two? So that's my only concern about Johnson. But I think he's going to be a really, really safe running back too, with mid RB2 upside, is I think what we can project him at in year 1 to year 2 is what I see for him. Here at the 201, I am up. I think it's tough, right? I mean, you have Tyler Warren here. You have my guy RJ Harvey, who I'm really dying to take here, but I'm going to go with Tyler Warren because at this point we're talking talent over situation. If you can get a guy like Tyler Warren with this kind of talent in the second round, I'm more than happy to take that swing, because look, I'm not at the 101. Now, I know we talked about we're not drafting for a specific team, but say you are the team that is the 101. You get a guy like Tyler Warren, yeah, you might be frustrated because he's not going to produce maybe a ton this year, right? We think. Matt looked it up yesterday. We're thinking maybe somewhere around 50 to 70 targets is what I would expect for Tyler Warren, based on how many targets that tight end room got as a whole last year. But you might not be expecting much from Tyler Warren year 1. And as a team that's rebuilding, I'm fine with that, right? I mean, Tyler Warren at the 201 is fine if you're not really expecting a ton. And if you do get something out of him year 1, that's even better. But at the 201, it's hard to not take him here.
Yeah. I mean, imagine someone told you 2 months ago that Tyler Warren would fall to the second round. I think we would all be like, nah, there's no way he'll make it that far. But, here we are. So I think it's a good pick. I'm glad you took it from me, so that way I didn't have to stare down that decision. But before I make my pick, Coach, you got any thoughts on Warren?
To me, Tyler Warren's the best tight end in the draft. Like, Anthony Richardson's the problem for me. I definitely would have taken Tyler Warren. Like, I really would have, way over Loveland. Like, I love Tyler Warren. Nobody's a bigger fan of Tyler Warren's game than I am. I just hate the landing spot.
Yeah, I get it. I think if Daniel Jones ends up getting some time, I'll be much happier about this, at least if you're hoping for some production this year.
And he could. He totally could.
Yeah. All right, Matt, you're up at the 202, man.
Yeah, here at the 202, if I'm approaching this like this was actually my team and I'm trying to rebuild, I'm going to look and see, am I going to take Tyler Shuck and have the quarterback? There's value there. Pete, you mentioned RJ Harvey. If I need a running back, that's the route that you could certainly go. But I'm also torn with another guy that I absolutely love that had a great landing spot, and that's Trey Harris. Goes to the Chargers, going to be opposite of Ladd McConkey. I could not design a better pairing than Trey Harris and Ladd McConkey. It's fantastic. I think he's going to have the ability to stretch the field and kind of be that big X presence that they've been lacking, frankly, for some time. So I love Trey Harris to the Chargers, and I'm going to take him at the 202. I think you could justify taking him even higher.
Yeah. I would have taken Trey Harris if Warren wasn't there. I know we talked about Harvey. I would be comfortable taking Trey Harris even instead of Caleb Johnson there at the 112, depending on my team build. I love this landing spot for Harris. And he's a guy that I think is a huge winner. He might be one of the biggest winners, in my opinion, when it comes to this class and landing spots. But Coach, what are your thoughts about Harris and his landing spot with the Chargers?
I mean, I'm the same. Matt's convinced me over time that Trey Harris is legit. Like, he really is. And he's in the perfect spot. Like, he walks in the door as wide receiver too. Like, how many people in this draft can say that? I mean, he's going to be. And I'm really happy for Herbert. If you got Herbert, that's another option for him. I think that's huge between Hampton and Harris. He's got some young weapons to get the ball to. That brings me to my pick here. I think I'm going to go I'm looking at if I was team 3 here on the board and I took Hampton in the first round, I'm going to feel really good that I get a quarterback to go with him and Tyler Shuck right here. I mean, the Saints, he's going to play for the Saints, especially with Carr's issues. I think he's going to play. I mean, you just got to love it. I mean, he's fast. His combine time was crazy, that he could move like that. He's huge. He's old. I know that's the knock is he's 26 years old, and I get it. I think the dude's been married multiple years now. But
he was Justin Herbert's
he's experienced. He's got a big arm, man. If you watch that Notre Dame game, he stood in there and took some shots, man, and delivered some rockets. I really like Shuck. I think the experience is a plus in my opinion.
Well, I will say this: if Tyler Shuck ends up being anything, you were probably one of the highest guys that I know in terms of what you saw in his game on tape. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, clearly the Saints felt the same. I don't think many people saw him going, this high. I think it's fine taking him here. I think you just got to hope and pray that, look, if there's a world where he doesn't start week 1, I think you're frustrated because of the age. I'm with you though, Coach. I don't think age is always the worst thing. I think people just worry about how much more can a guy get better physically with their age, but mentally, there's a lot of maturity likely there with all that time to grow and develop, which is definitely a plus when a guy's stepping into the NFL. Matt, do you have any closing thoughts on Shuck before we move on?
No, nothing else to add. I think Coach summed it up pretty well. I completely agree.
Okay. I'm going to pop this question by Jason. He said, I am a running back needy team with the 103. Genty and Hampton are going 1-2. Do I forego need for Hunter or Cam? I'm of the opinion that, look, I draft best player available for myself. I don't draft my rookie drafts based on build dependent unless I'm in the back end of the draft at the 110, 111, 112 where I'm a contender. Then maybe I switch it up. But if I'm in the top 3, I'm not looking to say I need running backs. You need talent most likely. And in that case scenario, I would be taking Hunter, Cam, or in my opinion, McMillan. I know you guys would probably take the other 2 ahead of McMillan, but regardless, I don't think you're reaching. And if you do, look, there's a good chance too. You can probably trade back then to the one. If you're talking running backs, right? These running backs are going 106, 107. You're talking about the 103. You can likely find a team in between there that can give you some capital to move up. So I would be doing that first. And if not, I would probably just be taking the best player available. And in this situation for me, I think it's Hunter. But I understand, going Cam Ward too, just because of the positional value.
Yeah, and for me, the only position I'm really hunting, if I'm hunting a position in the rookie draft, is quarterback. Quarterbacks are hard to come by. Yeah. So if I could find a starting quarterback in the rookie draft, that's when I'm really intrigued. I'm not worried about the other positions, but quarterback, that's a little different.
Yeah, I'm cool with reaching for a quarterback for sure. If you were gonna, Matt, any other thoughts? And he did say it's tight end, 2 tight end premium, 2 point tight end premium. I don't know if that changes anything for you, but.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't change my thought process at all. I think what Coach said is if I'm going to pay up for something, it's going to have to be a quarterback. Like you said, Pete, I'm going to draft the best player available and figure it out. We have to remember it's only April. You have plenty of time to make moves, do what you need to do. And like Pete said, too, if you're going to have the ability to trade back, explore that. Play the boards, see what's available. If you're at the 103 and Henderson and Judkins are available, and maybe the team behind you needs a quarterback, slide back 1 or 2 spots and take that tier. That's what I would do.
Yeah. Unless in a crazy world, Jason, you're really convinced that Henderson or Judkins are better than all of these other guys like McMillan, Hunter, and Ward, then I tell you go with your gut, right? This is dynasty and this is long-term commitments to players. And so while we're sitting here giving advice, if you feel confident in a player that he's going to be that good, then just take him, right? But in this scenario, I would at least try to trade back if you felt that way, because you likely can get Henderson or Judkins a few spots back. But let's move on to our next pick. And if you guys have any other questions, feel free to keep sending them in the chat. But next pick here, I'm glad it falls to me. I'm going to take my boy RJ Harvey. I know Luther Burden is still on the board, but I'm going to go with RJ Harvey, right? I mean, I think for me, Harvey's biggest concern is pass pro, right? If he can block, I think he's going to stay on the field. But I mean, that's a big thing in Sean Payton's offense. And I think for them to take a guy like Harvey and kind of a reach, which we didn't really talk about personally in private, but I think Denver reached a little bit on Harvey. I don't think they had to take him so high unless they felt like other teams really had him ranked this high on their board, but they take him at pick 60, which is pretty high for a guy that I think was likely projected third round. But to get second round capital for RJ Harvey, who I'm as big of a RJ Harvey guy as you're going to find, I did not peg him to get day 2 capital. I mean, second round capital, maybe day 2, back end day 2. I was a little worried that he might slip to day 3 and not get the capital I was hoping for. But I think I'm excited as a Broncos fan, and I think maybe I think this is a pretty emotionally calm pick, because there are situations where I've seen people that are looking to take him back end of the first. I don't know if I would do that just yet, but I'm comfortable taking him at this value here at the 204, especially when we're talking about a second round pick. So I don't know if I'm too high, too low. Maybe I have to temper expectations, but what are your thoughts, guys?
I'll be honest, I think it's too low. I think there's a really good argument that Harvey should be somewhere around that Caleb Johnson pick. Like, if you told me that you had RJ Harvey over Caleb Johnson, who was drafted a round later, I can't fault you too much. I mean, there's a lot to like. You mentioned it's not just day 2 capital, it's round 2 capital. Maybe this is the guy that they can believe to be the Bucky Irving of the offense. Yes, he's small, but I don't think we should necessarily fade him, because there's plenty of running backs out there doing it.
Yeah, and he's a tremendous athlete too. I mean, that he really is. That's the difference,
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, for fantasy football, he's the kind of player that you're hoping for. I mean, high upside, a lot of production in college. I think, again, for him, my biggest concern is just the ability to be on the field on passing situations as a blocker, right? Because that'll be where the rubber meets the road, especially in this offense. Matthew came in here and said Cam Ward is the 101. You're talking to Coach, who, if you see the flag in the background, is a Miami fan. I don't know if I go Cam Ward that high unless I really, really needed a quarterback and I was in a very, very rough rebuild. Maybe I would take him over Genty, but I think you could probably find somebody who's willing to pay up for Genty at that point, and then you can take those picks that you get for Genty and either trade it for a veteran quarterback or do something else. But I think at that point I probably would probably trade off of the 101 if you didn't want to take Genty at that point. All right, so I'm doing a little bit less talking here. 205, Matt, you're up.
Yeah, I'm not happy with the situation, but I'm going to take Luther Burden. I mean, it's a crowded room with not necessarily the same view that we should have with Tampa Bay or the Green Bay pick. I just feel like Burden is in a tough situation, but he was drafted so high. He's really, really athletic. Maybe there's a world where he gets better and maybe Rome's not as good as we think he is. So I don't know. I don't love this pick, but I'm going to go with Burden because I don't think you can leave him there any longer.
Okay. Coach, go for
it. Because Burden's a good player, right? I think Burden's a good player. Like, I was frustrated by this pick as a Bears fan, but I think Burden's really good personally. But it is going to be kind of a red shirt year for him, possibly. Like, there's no telling, where he's walked in the door probably as wide receiver 3. That's concerning without a doubt. But long term, he's the most talented player available right now. If you're picking,
this is akin to taking Pearsall last year. Same range, almost an identical situation of Debo's there. You've got IU, Juwan Jennings. Like, you're going to have to temper expectations on Burden, but that does not mean he can't be a good player.
I guess my question, and it is similar to what you alluded to, is there, I mean, Coach, as the resident Chicago Bears fan, is there a world where DJ Moore is no longer with this team before week 1 or at least after this season, right? I mean, I know there were some attitude concerns last year, right? Where, people were a little upset about, his overall body language and demeanor on the field. I mean, is there a world where, maybe you're drafting Luther Burden because you're assuming that there's a chance that Cole Kmet and DJ Moore maybe aren't with this team after this year?
Well, there's two trains of thought, and I actually mentioned this to Matt. Me and Matt talked about this last night. Like, is this a kind of a shot at DJ Moore, or maybe Rome's not quite as good as they thought? Like, those two things are there. But even Matt mentioned this, and I think Matt's probably right on this. I think the Bears may have wanted Travion Henderson at this spot, and the Patriots moved up in front of them, took Henderson, and that kind of just left the Bears to take the best player available, and that was Luther Burden at that point.
I think that's fair. I think from at least reading a lot of think pieces and from people that at least cover the Bears, a lot seemed to say that they thought that was probably what happened, and we would be head over heels if if they were switched where it was where it was Burden to the Patriots and Henderson to Chicago. I mean, we'd be feeling pretty good today about especially the first round for these rookie drafts with these landing spots in terms of rookie draft first round, not NFL draft.
Of course, we're through 5 rounds and the Bears haven't drafted a running back yet, so maybe that wasn't the play. Maybe they literally just took the best player that was available at the moment.
I 100% could see it. I'm trying to see if I can figure out what DJ Moore's contract is. We can come back to that in just a second. I do want to answer this question from Go, who, brings up Cam Skattebo. And when we talk about this Bears team, I think we opened up today, at least the three of us, talking about, is there a possibility Skattebo is the next running back for the Chicago Bears? Skattebo ends up getting picked very early, first few picks in day 3 to the New York Giants. And I think right now, I have Skattebo probably ranked as RB7. I think he's based on the running backs that have been picked so far, he would be the next running back for me. In my rankings at the moment. I don't know. Do you guys have any feelings on that? I mean, and do you like the landing spot for Skattebo in New York?
I do. I like the landing spot a lot. I do tend to think there's going to be a bit of a share there between him and Tracy, possibly. But it's definitely an opportunity for him to get out there on the field, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Matt?
I think it's a good compliment to Tracy. I do think he still has some involvement, but this definitely hurts his role. I mean, Skattebo projects as a guy who could be a bell cow. I'm not saying he will be, but he has that ability to withstand those hits, carry the rock for a full game, and he's great out of the backfield. So it's an interesting landing spot. We'll have to see what they do with Tracy going forward, but I'm with you guys. I think that'd probably be the next running back.
Yeah. So I do want to talk about DJ Moore for just a second, because he signed a 4-year, $110 million deal with a $20 million signing bonus and $81 million guaranteed with Chicago in 2024. In terms of potential outs for them after this year, they would eat $35 million moving on from him in 2026. So I definitely don't think he's moved this year. Maybe next year, if Chicago has a way to move around some of that money, with a $20 million signing bonus. I don't know, how they can move some stuff around, but with the signing bonus, you can usually move guaranteed money around. I don't know how they used that signing bonus already and how they structured his deal, but there may be a way to lower that cap hit of $35 million in terms of dead cap if they were to move on from DJ Moore. But just a little insight in terms of that. It looks like if there is something that happens, it's definitely not this year. Now, moving on to the 206, Coach, you are up.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm going to take the guy that I'm surprised Matt didn't take. I'm surprised Matt took Luther Burden over Jaden Higgins. Jaden Higgins has a real opportunity to be wide receiver 2 in Houston, possibly. Like, Matt's a big Christian Kirk guy, but I think Jaden Higgins will be better than Christian Kirk. I really do. Like, Christian Kirk will either get hurt or just play bad. And I think I really like Higgins. I like his spot. For me, it would be between him and Jack Best right here, because the Raiders room couldn't be any worse. But I took Higgins because his draft capital is really high. I think he was at his first pick of the second round, right? Like I like that spot.
Yeah. You know what? Sometimes we react emotionally. I think I was so frustrated because I'm such a Jaden Higgins guy that I did at one point yesterday say that I think I might prefer Jack Betch over Jaden Higgins just because of the landing spot. Now they did bring somebody else in Vegas, but I think as the day wore off, I'm starting to warm up a little bit to the idea of Jaden Higgins, but they did bring in his teammate in Jalen Noel. But I think your point is valid in that Christian Kirk does have issues staying on the field. And Nico Collins did miss some games last year. But Matt, you have any rebuttal to what Coach had to say there?
Yeah, I like Higgins. I know you're pretty high on him. The landing spot is good. I mean, they needed help in Houston, but I am concerned with bringing in Noel too. I don't think we can overlook that because I think Noel's a good player. Now, it is really cool that they both moved from Iowa State together and continue to be teammates. Obviously, they're going to be the second fiddles to Nico Collins, but where does Christian Kirk fit into this? Does he fall out now? Because Noel, I think, is going to slide into that slot role, and I think he has a chance to be pretty dang good. So the Texans offense is certainly interesting. The offensive line question marks are pretty big. But yeah, I think I'm going to be tempering expectations on Higgins and drafting where I can find some value. And I think this is a good pick.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much more to say on it. I still, like you said, Matt, I do worry about the Jalen Noel thing. There is some concern there for sure. Moving on to the 207, it's going to be me. And I don't want to get crazy here. My heart, I'm close to taking Ferguson, Terrence Ferguson. I know it's crazy. I'm going to go with Cam Scadaboo and be a little bit more level-headed here. But if Ferguson is available, I will be taking him next. I'll just say that. But I like the landing spot for Cam Scadaboo. He's a guy that, look, I mean, he was one of the better receiving backs in college football last year, and he broke a ton of tackles. He was the second most broken tackles outside of Ashton Genty in college football last year. And this is a guy that has soft hands that can catch the football out of the field. And Tyrone Tracy, for what it's worth, like that was a lot of his game was catching the football. He's a converted wide receiver that played running back from Purdue last year. And, when you look at Scadaboo, I mean, he's a guy that's going to be able to hold up in pass pro, right? And he's going to be a guy that's going to be a safety valve. And I'll tell you what, I was a guy that was high on Tyrone Tracy. He was one of my highest drafted best ball players last year, and I owned him in almost all my rookie drafts. If there was a running back today that was going to get picked that I was most worried about would affect him, it was going to be Scadaboo. And I really like this pick. And I think my bold take for this would be that I think Scadaboo takes over this room at least halfway through the year.
Ooh, so interesting. I like it.
Yeah. Jamie said bad pick. So I guess
Jamie. Scadaboo.
Matt, what do you think?
I like the pick. I mean, what you said, Coach and I were the same boat. We were buying Tyrone Tracy everywhere we could last year. Lots of late third-round picks, even waiver wire picks between the two of us. But I'm with you. I think Scadaboo has a chance to earn this job. Tracy was a guy we were selling, so we'll have to see how that split kind of carries forward. But I think I'm stuck in a really tough situation here at the 208, guys. I'm not exactly sure what route to go, but I think I'm going to go with Jack Besh. You mentioned the tight ends. I think you could make a case for any of them. I mean, Mason Taylor was a big player on your board, Pete, and he finds himself in the Jets offense. Is that the best landing spot? No. You mentioned Ferguson, Arroyo. There's a lot to like about these tight ends, but there's some question marks. So I'm going to go with Jack Besh. Coach alluded to that opportunity there in Las Vegas, and I don't think that he's wrong. I'm going to chase those targets.
Coach?
Yeah. I mean, that room is really bad. Like Trey Tucker, obviously Bowers is the guy in Vegas, but there's a lot of opportunity there for Betch, without a doubt. I really love that pick. What do you think, Pete?
Yeah, I like Besh too. I mean, look, I sat there yesterday and was I was delusional by saying that I would take him over Higgins, and in some world, I might take him over Higgins and get some exposure, both guys, depending on how many rookie drafts I'm in. Look, I think he provides another weapon, and this receiver room really lacks big body playmakers, right? Outside of Bowers, who is I mean, I guess, yeah, sure, he's a big body, but they don't really have a guy, Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker. Like Myers is a guy that can play, underneath, as well as just a good route runner, move the sticks, but he's not a guy that's going to be a go up and get it player. They don't really have that. And so with Besh, we saw what Gino was able to do with DK Metcalf and at least get him the football. Now Metcalf had butterfingers a lot of times and dropped a lot of those passes, but Gino was able to put it up where he could get it. I think Besh finds himself in a pretty good situation. So I'm totally fine taking him here, at the 208. Coach, you're up at the 209. What do you got?
Yeah, I understand right here that there's some good tight ends available, obviously, and I'm gonna let Pete take one of those probably, because I'm gonna take the guy that's in probably, in my opinion, the worst wide receiver room. I don't care what they did as far as free agency goes. Like the worst wide receiver room is in New England, and I really like Kyle Williams. That was a great pick for them early in the third round. The dude is a burner. I don't know if you've seen the clip where he just runs away from Travis Hunter like he's standing still. Like I really like Kyle Williams in this spot.
I do too. This is one of those situations where we're live and some guys get away from you. I'm glad he didn't slip that far, because I think there's a case where I honestly, call me crazy, I would take Kyle Williams over Jaden Higgins. Honestly, he's just one of those situations where he's parried so far on Sleeper's ADP that as running the show, I just didn't even notice. But I mean, I don't know if that's crazy, but I mean, is there a world where you guys would take Kyle Williams over Jaden Higgins right behind Luther Burden?
I mean, maybe he could literally be the wide receiver one, possibly. I mean, that wide receiver room is worse than the Raiders.
I mean, look, I'm really high on the Kyle Williams pick. Like, and I know it sounds crazy because I didn't mention it before. I would take him over Luther Burden, possibly. Like, I mean, I just really like what I like, and maybe I'm delusional, but I just really like what New England did. Their offensive line is beefed up. I like Drake May, and there are targets to be had in that offense. So I mean, call me crazy, but like I think this would be a steal of a pick if you could get Kyle Williams right here at the 109.
Yeah, I mean, the pick speaks volumes to me. I mean, the Patriots made an effort to add a wide receiver, went after Polk and Javon Baker last year, and it didn't work at all. They both were pretty bad, to be honest. Pop Douglas is certainly serviceable, but he's not going to carry the load. So I think adding a guy like Kyle Williams is a fantastic young addition for Drake May, a guy that can stretch the field. No, his 40 time wasn't great, but man, you throw on the tape, he makes big plays. Coach, you mentioned the play against Travis Hunter. He's a good player. I like the landing spot a lot, and I think picking him over Higgins, it's not necessarily that crazy.
I mean, look,
he's a guy that got almost no pub
probably
leading up to the draft. Like he's a guy no one talked about leading up to the draft.
He started to steam up a little bit, little bit towards like the last week. I felt like he started to get talked about, but prior to that, yeah, I mean, he really was not mentioned a ton. Now we do have a question here, and it says, where will you draft Sanders compared to Gabriel? We're kind of getting towards that back end of a draft where guys start to take chances on guys that do play the quarterback position. I don't think Sanders and Gabriel are guys that I would take in the second round. They're likely guys I would take in the third. Now, which guy would I take? Look, I would take Sanders just because overall, I know Gabriel was taken day two, and I get that. But I just think with the PR, with everything going on, I think even if Gabriel played, I think he'd be on a short leash and they would give Sanders an opportunity to play. And I think it would just be a matter of time unless Gabriel really, really played well. So I would rather just take Sanders, who likely would probably go possibly behind Gabriel, depending on what league you're in, just because of the capital. But I don't know. What are your thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I think Sanders, Sanders, everybody says has a very average arm, which it's slightly above average. His arm is stronger than Dylan Gabriel's, in my opinion. I think Sanders is a decent processor. I really think Sanders fits well with Kevin Stefanski. I personally would take Sanders just because the pub is going to, you're going to hear about this all year long until he gets on the field eventually. So, I mean, I just think there's going to be that opportunity for him. And I personally just am not a fan of Dylan Gabriel.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's got a noodle arm, man. Like, it's not there. A lot of people are gonna try and compare him to Bo Nix coming from Oregon, but they're frankly different players, and I don't think it's fair to try and put Dylan Gabriel in that mold. I'm with you guys. I'm gonna take Sanders over Gabriel. Now, how high am I gonna make that draft pick? I don't know. I'm kind of with you, Pete. Maybe in the third round, back of the second, just kind of taking a shot if I don't necessarily like any of the players. But it's not necessarily a great situation, in my opinion.
I would probably just take the guy that didn't get picked first, honestly, unless both guys really fell late and you're talking mid third and you don't really love the board and you just want to take a chance, then I would take Sanders. But I would, if we're sitting here, I mean, it's probably just going to be the guy that gets that's left over the two is the guy, because I don't really want to invest much into that quarterback situation. Because look, Cleveland picked up picks. I think they're going to draft a guy next year unless Sanders or Gabriel wows us and ends up being really good. But moving on to the next guy, it's going to be my pick here. I know I talked about Terrence Ferguson. I'm going to see, I'll be honest. I'm struggling here with Jalen Milroe or Terrence Ferguson. Milroe got some pretty solid draft capital. So because he plays, coach is giving me a weird look because he plays the quarterback position. I am tempted. I will say I am tempted. I think I'm still going to go with Terrence Ferguson just because I really truly believe in that situation. I don't believe in that Milroe situation that much. I mean, I could see a world where maybe somebody does take Milroe, and I've seen already drafts where Milroe is going around this area. But I'm going to go with Ferguson. Look, I mean, Ferguson's an athletic and a really athletic tight end. You look at how he tested. He tested extremely well at the combine, explosive athlete. And overall, I mean, it speaks volumes to a team like the Rams. I mean, to take this guy at the 214, it says a lot. I mean, they need a tight end, and he went ahead of Arroyo, who, Coach, you loved, and Arroyo was a draft darling early on this year in the process. Like, people really liked him, and for Ferguson to get picked this high was surprising. I mean, I liked Ferguson. I didn't think he was going second round. I thought it was probably a late third round pick, maybe and I was hoping for that kind of capital. But to get picked this high in the second round to a team that really needs a tight end and has been looking to draft a tight end for the last 2-3 years, I'm all in on Terrence Ferguson in this offense, and I love the landing spot here. So, yeah, I'm going to take him here at the spot.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't blame you one bit. The Rams, if they're making a move to go get him, that speaks volumes. I do like Arroyo. Arroyo went where, I kind of thought he would go anyway, mid-second round. I did like his spot in Seattle, but Terrence Ferguson's a good athlete. I can't fault you one bit.
Matt, your thoughts? Am I delusional here, or is this just about right where you think he should go?
He is delusional, but no, it's a fine pick. I'm shocked that you have abandoned Mason Taylor, though. I am going to say that was your guy, and while Fields is certainly limited, I do think that there's opportunity there.
I do.
So I'm surprised.
I'm not completely out on Taylor. I will say that is a room that does not have many pass catchers. Mason Taylor could be the number 2 receiver in that offense, but what does that mean in an offense that's not going to pass the ball maybe a ton?
That's a great question.
That's the thing. But I love Mason Taylor, who also got really high draft. He was drafted higher than Ferguson.
He was.
So yeah, I mean, I like him. I think I'm just more. You could look at it 2 ways. You could look at it. He's got a ton of opportunities to catch targets because that room is that receiving room in general is wide open outside of Garrett Wilson. Or you could look at it and say, do I trust Justin Fields to give him enough volume? But I like it overall. I just don't know if I would take him over Ferguson here.
Yeah.
At least that shows I can be rational because I was in love with Mason Taylor.
And still are. Really, I mean, it's not him. He's not the problem.
Yeah, I know. What were you gonna say?
Go ahead, Matt. Let's hear it, Matt.
We're entering the point of where the league settings I think matter. If this is tight end premium, Ferguson, great pick, and there's an argument for those other tight ends because we saw lots of tight ends go on day 2. We've mentioned Mason Taylor, Elijah Arroyo goes to the Seahawks. We're kind of phasing out of these veteran tight ends and Tyler Higbee, Colby Parkinson, Noah Fant. So that's interesting. I mean, we also had Harold Fannin go in the 3rd round early to the Browns. That's interesting to me too. I know Njoku's there, but I'm kind of looking long term. But here at the 211, I'm torn between 2 players. Either one, the potential Bucky Irving guy in Cohen's offense being Tootin to the Jags, drafted 2nd pick of the 4th round, or a guy Coach has been mentioning here recently, and that's Isaac TeSlaa. The Lions traded 3 third-round picks to move up and go and get Isaac TeSlaa. 3 third-round picks. So I think that's a pretty significant investment. And I'm going to go with Isaac TeSlaa here. I think that's an interesting play. I mean, they
stole
need a
my
running
pick.
partner.
You stole my pick.
J-Mo,
you stole my pick.
Yeah. J-Mo has been inconsistent, injuries, off-the-field issues, just kind of a big play guy. I think Isaac TeSlaa adds something to this offense. Not to mention he is a Dan Campbell guy, man. He fits that mold. So I like that. I like the investment. I'm going with that pick here.
Gosh. Yeah.
Pete, you're smiling.
Of course, I love the investment. I love it. I do.
I think it's great. I think it's fucking nuts that they give up that much. But don't get me wrong. I think he could be good. I'm not hating on the guy. I just thought it was a lot to give up, which that must mean they really like him. So, I mean, it definitely feeds into the argument.
It was a lot. He was an athletic freak. We talked about this the other night on our show. Like there's a little bit of Puka in his game. He's incredibly tough, willing blocker. Like he's the guy that's really willing to do anything it takes to help his team win. When you combine that with his athletic prowess, like I get it. They did pay a lot, which makes you think he's going to get on the field. So this brings me to mine, and I'm looking tight end, but I'm not going with Pete's boy. I'm gonna go take my boy. I'm gonna take Elijah Arroyo. I've been singing his praises forever. I can't not take him here. He's a heck of an athlete. He was injured a lot over his career, which was some of his issue. This year he was fantastic. He's a willing blocker. I think he can play in line, stand up. He can do a little bit of everything. I love the pick. I love the spot. Like I think he's going to get a lot of burn there in Seattle. You could make the case that some of these 2nd-round tight ends are in a better position actually to impact the team quickly compared to even Loveland or Tyler Warren, to be honest. Especially there's some great landing spots here for tight ends. Yeah,
I'm cool with that. I like the landing spot too. Matt, what are your thoughts?
Speed. That's all I hear is speed. Elijah Arroyo down the seam, man. That's a great fit. I'm with you, Coach. I like it.
Yeah, he's fast.
I'm trying to think, because obviously Kubiak is now the OC here, and I'm trying to think of tight ends that Kubiak has had in his systems, right? I mean, he was with Denver before he went to the Vikings. With the Vikings, he had Hawkinson. I don't think he necessarily made Hawkinson. Hawkinson was already a made man before he got there. But utilization-wise, I'm trying to think. Was Kubiak there? He was just there 1 year last year, right? I think it was just last year. And then he came over. So I don't know how much time he had to work with Hawkinson, who came back from the injury. But overall, I think it's a good fit. I'm excited to see it. No complaints there. Alfredo, what's up, man? It's been a while. Said I tried to super chat my question, but for some reason YouTube is bugging. I'm sorry, fellas. That's right. I didn't see the question, so you don't have to send in a super chat if if for whatever reason if it's not working. But feel free to send in that question, and we'll gladly answer it. KMG King said Tesla's the Tim Patrick, Josh Reynolds replacement. Coach, what are your thoughts there?
It's possible. My concern is with the Lions in general is Ben Johnson leaving. What happens with the offense overall? That's concerning to me. Like we're going to find out how good Ben Johnson is, not just with the Bears, but with the impact it has on the Lions. Does anything change there? I'm just really interested to see what happens with that.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. I do have some concern. I want to see what the aftermath of losing Ben Johnson is. Alex came in and said, "I've got the 110. I've got McBride already. Allen at quarterback, so I don't need tight end or quarterback. No way Caleb Johnson falls to the 112. What would you guys give up to move up to the 108?" I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't really see much of a. There's a tier break for me personally after Judkins. I think there's the tier. There's like a tier here where Gentry's on his own. Then you have, in my opinion, I think you have these four in a tier of their own with Hunter, Hampton, and Ward and McMillan. And I think Henderson and Judkins are in their own tier as well. And then there's a tier with, if you have Golden, I think all the guys back here are in another tier. So, I mean, to me, I don't know if I would feel the need to reach for Caleb Johnson up at the 108 unless you really like him. And in this case, the only thing I'd be willing to give up for Johnson to move up from 112 to 108 is probably a second rounder. I don't think it should take much more than a second rounder to move up, because I don't know if the guys that are in this spot feel super strong about a certain player. So I think that would be what I'd be willing to give up, because for me personally, we talked about RJ Harvey, heck, even Scadaboo, who could find himself at this spot with where RJ Harvey is. I would be fine getting one of them because I think they could make a year one impact just like Caleb Johnson. And I don't think I'd feel the need to go up and reach for Johnson at the 108. What are your thoughts, guys?
I totally agree. I really think there is a world where he's there at 112. That wouldn't shock me in the least. If not, I'd be just as happy with RJ Harvey. I have no problem with that at all. I'm with you,
Matt.
Yeah, I'd be kind of shocked if Johnson found his way into the 108 area. That's pretty rich. I mean, he was a third round pick. And I think a lot of these wide receivers are going to fall because Judkins, Henderson, Gentry, those are guaranteed probably top 7 picks. You throw Ward in there. I think there's a world where Warren goes ahead of Caleb Johnson. Like, you can make the argument, like Coach said, Warren's a fantastic player. It's just Anthony Richardson throwing him the ball. So I'm not quick to say Caleb Johnson is going to go higher. There'll certainly be instances he will, but I think ADP will be somewhere in the 110, 111, 112 range.
Okay. Coach, anything else you want to add there before we move on?
Nope. I'm with you.
All right, cool. All right, so let's finish out this draft here. Let's go to the 3-1, and then Dom, I'll get to your question after this pick. And then Sush just said, Miami just selected Ollie Gordon. You think he slots in ahead of Madison or below? I would say above Madison, but we'll get to that in a few. And then we'll pull Dom's question. I'm up here, and Matt kind of talked about him a little bit, but I'm going to go with Rashal Tootin. I know it's a crowded room here, but I know I'm just going to bank on the fact that he was the first player taken on day 3. So I think the team felt pretty highly of him. And to me, well, actually, no, he wasn't the first player taken on day 3, but he was one of the top 5. But overall, this is an offense that we've seen Liam Cohen use his running backs. They like to use multiple running backs. I'll bank on the fact that he's going to get some time and some love there. And look, I'd be curious to know your guys' thoughts, because I think I was most worried about, with Travis Etienne, he can probably fit into this offense because he's a good pass catcher. When you look at Tank Bigsby, right, he's not a guy that, catches the football much. He only caught 7 passes, right? And this offense likes to throw to running backs. When you look at Rashal Tootin, is he more of a threat to Travis Etienne because Bigsby's likely that first down back, early down back, and then, Tootin maybe going to be that like third down guy. Do you have concerns? Which guy in that room do you think it affects the most?
Go ahead, Matt. You're the Jags guy.
If I'm being honest, I have no clue. I have no clue. I couldn't pick.
That's fair.
I mean, be honest, because I'm with you guys where I think Tootin has the immediate pass catching role, being on third down. Like, I check, totally with you. But who's the odd man out? I have no idea. I think there's a case for both. I mean, how much of Travis Etienne was injury? How much of Tank Bigsby's first year where he was terrible versus last year where he was more serviceable? I don't know, man. I think it's a tough situation to predict right now. If I had to pick right now, I would say Etienne is the one that survives over Bigsby, but I'm not confident in that.
It's funny. I was quick to pass that to you because I feel the exact same way. Like, I literally have no idea. Like, I don't know how you know. Like, clearly they didn't love Etienne. Of course, there's a new coach now. That could change things. Like, I literally have no idea.
I think the thing, at least with Tootin, is I think he has a role. I think that I know. So that's why I'm confident, because at least we saw Liam Cohen. Now, again, Canales was also part of that 2 years ago with that room and running backs getting the football in the passing game. But Canales kept that going last year and made 2 running backs get 50 receptions last year with White and with Bucky Irving, and on top of Sean Tucker saw his way on the field a decent amount too at time to time. So, I think I like taking a shot at Tootin here. I don't know if I'd take him much higher, but I like Tootin here just because I know he's going to be in the mix some way, somehow. I just don't know how much and how consistent we'll be able to bank on him going forward. Now, before we get to our next pick, which is going to be Matt at the 3-2, I do want to pull up Dom's question. And he said 12 teams start 10. Only need 2 wide receivers. Have Nico Collins, Neighbors, Shakir, Pearsall. No running backs at the moment. Have the 103, 104, 105, 108, and 3 early seconds. Should I take one of Tet and Hunter early on, or just slam the running backs at 103 and 104? Matt, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I mean, seeing that you have the 3, 4, 5, the way I'd probably approach those picks is assuming Genty, Ward / Hunter, McMillan goes at that second pick. I'm taking the opposite wide receiver, and then probably Hampton and maybe even Henderson is the way I'd probably approach that. I might look to see if I could explore moving out of the 105 if there's maybe a quarterback needy team. If Cam Ward didn't go, not sure what your quarterback situation is, so that certainly could change things. But yeah, I would stick and pick with those first 2 and definitely take the worst wide receiver and the highest running back.
Coach?
Yep, I totally agree. I'm gonna take the wide receiver that I like, that's the best one, the best available, and then nail the best running back there as well, like especially right off the bat, and then let the chips fall as they may after that.
Yeah, I think Matt makes a good point. Like, moving off the 105 is probably the move to make here. Go ahead and get the 103, 104, get the top talent there, which I think, look, I'd be fine taking Tet or Hunter, depending on which guy you prefer, and taking Marlon Hampton. But I'm also, look, I'm fine. I mean, you'll probably still find yourself in a good situation. I mean, if you go 103, 104, and you do take Tet and McMillan, and then if you take Marlon Hampton too, right? I mean, but the argument could be made that, are you leaving Cam Ward on the table for somebody else? And at that point, is there a way that you can recoup some value by moving back? So I think you have a lot of flexibility.
The board too.
Yeah,
that's the most
you have a lot of flexibility. Part. Yeah. And quite honestly too, I mean, you could find yourself in a situation where a guy maybe is in the back end of the first. Maybe you can pull a situation off where you take one of their veteran running backs that you like and you buy low and get their first round pick added on top.
Yeah, great
But all right, let's grab Alfredo here because he did send in a super chat. Appreciate you, man. It's good to see you. Oh wait, that was Alfredo's question. Was that Alfredo's?
Wait, no, this is a different question.
No, that was Tom. This is different.
Okay,
he just both of them have a lot of picks.
Okay. Tom said, awesome. Thanks, guys. Alfredo said, I own the 108, 110, 202, 203, 205. Should I stick and draft best players available or trade up to the top 6? Important info. I have Chase and Bijan. Look, I think overall, if you could package up 108, 110, and the 205 and go get Tet or Travis Hunter, I'd be fine doing that. To be honest with you, unless this is a team where you have a lot of holes. If you have a lot of holes, I'd stick and pick. Or honestly, I love rookies, right? I love taking rookies, but I would look to move one of those picks for a veteran wide receiver if you need it. And just go buy low on a guy. Maybe a DJ Moore. You go get Ricky Pearsall if you like him. They didn't add to that room in this draft, right? He's going for like a 111, 112. Maybe you go get Ricky Pearsall and trade one of those picks. So I think you're fine to trade, but I think you got to feel real confident drafting. And especially if you have a lot of holes, I would look to maybe not an old veteran, but I would maybe look to move off one of those picks and grab a veteran. That would be my idea.
Yeah, I really like that 110 spot to go get a proven guy. That's a perfect spot to go get you a proven guy that's going to help your team, that is going to help your team.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're not gurus, right? I mean, rookies are going to bust, right? So at the end, and I
Yep.
said that I thought the 108 to the back end of the first is like a kind of a clustered tier. So there is a lot of chance that the guy you take is not a hit, and so I'd much rather roll the dice and go grab a veteran that you like that maybe isn't like not Mike Evans or Devontae Adams, but go get somebody who's in the middle age wise. Matt, what are your thoughts?
I love the situation that Alfredo is in. Having picks clustered like this is such a great feeling, in my opinion. It gives you a ton of flexibility, whether you want to move up, move back, stick and pick. Like you got in here, do you draft the best players available? That's always my strategy. I'm always going to take the best players available. But, if you wanted to move up and go get an established guy, yeah, maybe you take the 108 and the 203 and you jump up to the 105 and you get McMillan, Cam Ward, or Henderson. Whichever one of those falls, because you're basically guaranteed one of those. Maybe you go higher. You take the 108 and the 203 and the 205, and can that get you to the 104? I don't know, maybe. But now's the time to do that because as we approach the draft, these picks are going to continue to accrue, and everyone's going to want to stick and pick. So if I were you and, you can't get a good deal done to move up a few spots, then I would just hold because someone's going to come calling for that 110, the 202, the 203, because the name's going to fall. Someone always does.
Yeah. I think that's good advice. Let's try to hit some of these questions real quick, and then we'll start finishing out these picks and get out of here. Sush said Miami just took Ollie Gordon. You think he slots in ahead of Madison or below? I actually think in this specific offense, Ollie Gordon actually fits it pretty well, just because of his archetype. I know I'm higher on Ollie Gordon than you two are, but look, for me, it's a guy that was rated the best running back in college football 2 years ago. There's talent there. He had a down year last year. I think he gained a lot of weight, and I think that slowed him down. And I think he just played behind a really bad offensive line, just a bad offense in general. Overall, I would if I was in a startup, I would be taking Ollie Gordon over Alexander Madison for sure. And I think he'll slot in ahead of him. But who knows? I don't think there's any ties to Madison and this coaching staff either. That would give him the edge up. I don't know if you guys have anything to add there. We could just move on. Alex said agree. Questions. Yeah. He said, Alex, agree. Tier starts after 7. The tier break starts after 7. JJ said, I'm in win now. Need a running back. I have the 107. Who should be my first running back pick? I think where the consensus here is Henderson. I think Henderson and Judkins both are going to be able to help you out if you're in win now. I think both guys make an impact year one. And I don't think they're guys that you're going to have to sit and worry that they're in some sort of timeshare.
Yep. Henderson's the preference there.
Yeah.
Henderson if you can get him.
Yeah. Jamie said first kicker was drafted already. Kev said I have Travis Etienne and Bigsby. I guess I might need to complete the trio. I don't think you're going to be like frustrated. It's a headache. I think it's just catching up insurance, and it's a new coaching staff, and there's a lot to be said about a staff that likes running backs. And it's the first guy that they've drafted in this regime. Pats need a kicker. Yep, they got a kicker. Alfredo said, thanks, guys. KMG said, since the Bears didn't take a running back, does that mean Roschon is a sneaky value? Coach, you're the Bears fan. Talk to it.
Yeah, possibly. I actually traded a third-round pick for Roschon at the end of last year, hoping for this scenario. It's possible. Roschon played well down stretch last year. I think he can make an impact. I do think the Bears could do something in free agency to completely negate that, like Dobbins and Chubb. One of those guys coming to Chicago would change all that completely.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's start moving on here to the next picks. We have 50 people watching here on YouTube Live. Appreciate it. Hit us with a thumbs up if you guys are here, and if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. We're pretty much we're kind of hitting the sprint now, right? This is the rookie draft season, right? NFL draft finally here, right? We can finally start cranking some more stuff out. So excited to keep going live for you guys. And if you like the content, just feel free to subscribe and give us a like. It helps us out tremendously. Matt, you're up here at the 302 after a long wait. Shake the rust off and go ahead and take your next player.
302. I'm on the clock. I do want to let Coach know Kyle McCord was drafted to the Eagles. So
saw that.
I think you might
like
that.
That's interesting. Solid backup there.
Yeah, I thought so. I wanted to make sure you saw that. So now I'm back on the clock. I'm kind of in a tough situation here because I think outside of the tight ends, there's only one remaining player that was drafted on day 2. I could be wrong. I'm just doing a quick scan. But I'm going to go with him. I'm going to go with Jalen Noel. I think he's got a ton of talent. I like the situation. Don't love the situation, but I like the pairing long-term with CJ Stroud. So Jalen Noel, really athletic, fantastic player out of the slot, obviously with his teammate in Higgins and Nico, but we'll have to see what happens. But I'm interested in Noel.
Yeah, I get it. I'll say this too. I could go on and on. We could talk forever about this, about how valuable third round picks are. Like just the history in the last 3 or 4 years where these third round picks tend to hit just as much as the second rounders. Like all those guys you see across the way there, then in the second round, most of them will not help you at all. I hate to break that to you, but that's just the reality of it. So now in the third round, I'm gonna go where I think there's opportunity, and that's Alec A.O. Manor in Tennessee. I know DK's there and was drafted. Chamir DK I'm talking about was drafted ahead of him, but I just think A.O. Manor's a better player personally.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We talked about A. Manor. I was actually going to take him next, so I think that's a fine spot for him at the 303. All right, let's go here at the 304. Yeah, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to take Jalen Milroe. I'm not a huge fan in terms of I don't know that he'll be a great NFL quarterback, but we saw with Justin Fields, right, where a guy that can run, a guy that's strong, and honestly, a guy that has a lot of humility. I read some stuff on him, and the questions and his interviews with Seattle, and they talked about there's a guy who came to the plate and pretty much told him that he's got a lot of stuff to work on, right? And so I like that, and I think he finds himself in a situation where, look, Sam Darnold could be. What happened?
Will Howard to the Steelers. That's interesting, right? That's a little interesting.
I mean, yeah, they don't really have much, so I mean, it's hard to not be interested. I think I would hope he can beat out Mason Rudolph. Maybe Will Howard gets picked at the end of this draft. But yeah, I mean, I'll close out Milroe. I just think the talent's exciting. If he gets a chance to play, I think he could put up good fantasy numbers. And that's really all I'll say about Milroe. I don't know how successful he'll be as a quarterback in the NFL, but fantasy wise, if he does get those opportunities, I think he can be very, very valuable. So
yeah,
Matt,
you're throwing a
305.
dart. That's all you're doing.
Yeah.
And at the 305, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm closing my eyes and I'm drafting Shedeur Sanders. I think that this is the point where you can take the shot. Again, presuming that I'm managing this 305 team, maybe I'm feeling pretty good about my roster, and I'm just going to take the shot on getting a quarterback that could significantly increase his value. I don't love it. I'm closing my eyes to do it, man.
I was trying to play that a little earlier, but it started a little later.
I don't love it, but what are your guys' thoughts? I mean, roast it.
I don't know. It's hard to. I mean, third round, it's dart throws, right? We talk about it all the time. I'm gonna close my eyes and do the same thing. I'm hunting opportunity. Pat Bryant, you got some opportunity. I'm taking Pat Bryant here. Pete, let's hear your thoughts.
Look, I mean, I think it was a little bit of a reach by Denver. I don't know that they had to take him as high as they did. I also think he fits the mold of what Sean Payton likes, man. He likes a guy who's a willing blocker, so he definitely can find himself on the field. And this is a guy that was top 10 in terms of catch rate, right? So contested catch rate, I believe, too. Or one of those two. I don't have the stats in front of me. So good hands, right? A guy that can toe drag too. So has good feet, has good body control. So yeah, I mean, I think Pat Bryant's solid. I do think that they really like Devon Vele. So he's going to have to probably push Vele to get that spot. But overall, I mean, they spent day 2 capital on him, and so I mean, I think it says a lot for a guy that feels like they've reached on. So yeah, I don't hate the pick at all. Matt, anything you want to share?
Sorry, I was deep in here looking over at some running backs that we still have available and where they landed. But yeah, I like the pick there, Coach. It's an opportunity. You mentioned it's a day 2 guy, so we'll see what happens. There's plenty of things to like in Denver, so I like Pat Bryant.
All right, so we're talking running backs, and I do like.
Are you going to pass over Mason Taylor again?
I'm not going to pass over him. I'm frustrated because I feel like I have to take Mason Taylor here. And
We're trying to make you do it.
I'll take him for the value. I'll take Mason Taylor here. I will say Marks getting drafted to Houston would have been my pick here if Taylor was taken. But I like Mason Taylor. I've always liked him. I think at the end of the day, he's going to have an opportunity to if his quarterback can get him the football, he's going to have all the opportunity in the world to be productive. It's really just a matter of can Justin Fields get him the football, right? And are they going to be such a run heavy team? And how many opportunities can he get if they're not running a ton of plays? We talked about that was the concern with the Houston offense, right? 22nd in terms of total plays in the NFL per game, and there's concern there with the Jets, right? Can they sustain drives and run enough plays to give Taylor a chance to be effective year one? But you're taking a guy round 3 who had high-end second-round draft capital. You're not expecting much year one, and Fields might not even be the guy next year. So I'm fine with taking Taylor here at this spot.
Yeah, I mean, it's the 307. You might as well take the shot. It's a player you like. He was really productive in college, and he kind of slides right into an open opportunity. He's not really competing with much there in New York, so I like the pick, Pete.
Well, thank you.
Coach, any thoughts?
Nah.
Nope.
It's a good spot. Great. It's a good value.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matt, you're up. Oh, no. Is Matt up? Yeah, Matt's up.
It's Matt.
Yeah. It's my pick. I'm going to go with a guy that I think has an opportunity. You might think it's a weird spot, but it's DJ Giddens. He goes to the Colts. He's going to be behind Jonathan Taylor. Yes, there's been injury history for JT, but also when you look at the rest of that running back room, it's not good at all. It's Khalil Herbert, Tyler Goodson, and Salvon Ahmed. So I think I'm just fine with taking DJ Giddens. I think he slides in and has the ability to be the RB2 for this offense. There's certainly some wide receivers that had day 2 capital you could argue for, but I like Giddens in this situation.
I think it's a great pick. I forgot Giddens went right as we went live. But yeah, I mean, I think the running back room's open, and look, Taylor's had his issues staying healthy, so I think it's fine. Coach?
Yeah, I like Giddens. I like Giddens a lot. I mean, the spot is the spot right here. You're trying to find landing spots. You're trying to find somebody that can find their way on the field. Which is why I'm gonna go Devin Neal. He got taken by the Saints just a couple picks ago. Kendry Miller has fell on his face. Obviously, there's something about him they don't like. Kamara's getting older. I think there's a chance Devin Neal could get on the field.
Yeah, I didn't know we've been live, so I didn't realize Neal finally got taken. I like that spot a lot, actually. I think because more so, it's an encouraging staff. I trust Kubiak. To maybe get him the football if he gets the opportunity, but it's really a matter of what goes on with Kamara. I'm not. I mean,
It's a guess. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
No. I'm thinking. I'm talking about the guy behind him of Kamara. It's
Miller, Kendry Miller.
Yeah, Kendry. I think the dream might be dead for Kendry, and it's unfortunate because he really was given a raw deal for sure.
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
was he?
Injuries and a little bit of I'm not going to say off the field issues, but just kind of in the running back room issues. Certainly
Allen
derailed him and do what? I'm sorry, Pete.
I said Dennis Allen freaking hated him for whatever. I mean, granted, he might have had valid reasons. I don't know what what he was like in the locker room, but continue, Matt. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think that's fine. I don't have much else to add. I think the 309, Neal's a good pick. Interesting situation. We're just trying to find guys with opportunities to get on the field that can make the most of it.
Yeah. So
I'll tell you, I probably passed over the one I should have picked, Jadon Blue to the Cowboys.
That's fair. Did Damian Martinez get picked yet?
No. He's still available.
Interesting. Gosh. And I will say Matt hasn't taken Harold Fannin Jr. For all the shit that you guys have been giving me. Jaden Blue, I think, Jaden Blue, I like Woody Marks too. I I'm gonna go with. I'll go with Marks. I liked Marks better out of college. He finds himself in Houston behind a 29-year-old Joe Mixon, who, realistically, he's very much movable after the season. I think Marks can be a guy that can spell in that offense. And so I'll take him here at the front, the 310 to Houston.
The Titans just took Khalil Mullins, which from Michigan, which really surprised me, ahead of Damian Martinez and Brashard Smith. And
I'm not surprised about Brashard Smith as much as I am Martinez. Brashard Smith, I think there was more concern is can he run through the tackles at the NFL level in between the tackles, Yeah. But Matt, you're up here at 311, and then let's close it out.
311, you mentioned Harold Fannin, and I think that's probably the route I'm going to go. When I'm in this situation at the back end of the third round, I'm contemplating who do I think might be available on waiver wires and, how much fab do I have to dump into certain players. But, I like Fannin a lot. He's really athletic. He's going to be a guy that kind of has to take some time. He's going to be gadgety, find ways to put him in space and exploit defenders. Yes, David Njoku's there, but, we just never know. And I think this is a guy that they're going to take and let him build, and we're going to see him in the backfield, line up as H-back. He'll be all over the field because he's just such a weapon. He's kind of that Joker role.
Okay.
Yeah.
Coach?
Harold Fannin, he's not going to block anybody. We know that. He's a good. He played better against better people. There's a lot of good things to like about Fannin, especially as a receiver. So, this is the perfect time to throw that dart and hope it lands. Jalen Royals is interesting to me to the Chiefs in the third round. There's third round capital there. But if I'm going to throw my final dart and I'm going to take a chance right here, I'm going to take that chance with Will Howard. Can he get on the field as a quarterback? If he gets on the field as any quarterback that starts has lots of value, like without a doubt. At minimum, you get this pick back and more down the road if he just becomes a starter for the last half of the season.
Yeah, I think it's 312 might as well be a fourth round pick anyway. So, you're not expecting much, right? If you don't hit on this pick, you really don't care. It's kind of like the Tyrone Tracy thing, right? To me, Tyrone Tracy was getting picked kind of towards the back end here, right? Last year. And now we're talking about Tyrone Tracy being a guy that he's valued right now as a late first, early second round pick in rookie drafts, right? So sometimes you take that profit, and in this situation with Will Howard, he's a guy that probably can only, his value can't go lower is the best way to put it, right? His value is a late fourth round dart throw, right? If you can trade him and get a early third next year after this season's over, you profited there. So I'm fine with Will Howard, who goes to a room that's pretty wide open, unless Aaron Rodgers ends up coming, which I think is eventually going to happen.
Yep.
Matt, anything else?
Yeah, I think when we look back at the board here, we should think about some names we left off. Savion Williams, wide receiver from TCU, goes to the Packers in round 3. He didn't get drafted here, so that's going to be someone that would be on waivers. Ty Felton went to the Vikings, last pick of the third round. Not necessarily the best landing spot, but he's a solid player. Jalen Lane went to Washington. So there's still names out here that are interesting to me, and you could make cases for having opportunities.
Yeah, I think
Torrey Horton is interesting.
Well, Torrey Horton just went recently. Did he go to the Ravens? What team did he just go to?
He went to
Seahawks. Yeah. Restrepo still on the board, right? He didn't get picked yet. Ollie Gordon goes to Miami, and that's not a terrible situation. Isaiah Bond didn't get picked yet either. What a fall from grace that was. I think that. Go ahead.
I just want to interrupt you real quick. I'm sorry. Riley Leonard to the Colts, coach.
Oh, that's interesting. He's a phenomenal leader. He really is. If there's a guy that's going to find a way to succeed, it's Riley Leonard. His accuracy scares the crap out of me. He looks really bad at times. But he has all the intangibles. He does. He has all the intangibles. He can run. He's intriguing. His accuracy looks better at times than Richardson's.
Well, that's not a high bar. But yes.
Yeah, I'm just talking about the college version. I mean, he throws it better than Richardson did in college.
No, I agree. Isaac said thoughts on Jaden Blue. Yeah, I was thinking about taking Jaden Blue here at the 310. Again, that's when we talk about, I mean, Jaden Blue, like you're looking for guys that are in like Jaden Blue finds himself in a situation where you can make the argument that he should go ahead of both of these guys, right? He's in a room that like has really not much talent. So Jaden Blue likely, is going to be a 3rd round pick, I think, because people are just going to fall in love with the idea that Cowboys situation in that room is wide open. Jaden Blue's a guy that we left off the board, right? Jalen Royals, Matt named a couple as well. Dylan Sampson went early today to Cleveland, but he'll be behind Judkins. I'm not super worried about Sampson. So there's a lot of guys and LaQuint Allen too, right? Didn't he go to I'm sorry, Jacquez Hunter went to the Rams, right? So that's also another possibility. So it'll be interesting. Let's answer one last question here and then we'll get out of here. Jamie said, I'm on the clock at 105. Ted is available, but I'm heavy at wide receiver top talent. I'm light at running back. So would you take Henderson over Ted? I would take Henderson over Ted in that situation if you really, really needed a running back, but again, I'm more of I just take best player available. So I would prefer to just take Tet and then maybe trade one of those wide receivers on your team to go get another running back. That would be my advice. But what are your thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I'm probably with you. I would either take Tet or see if there's a way for you to just slide back 1 or 2 spots and get between Henderson or Judkins. I'm not sure who's available, but I don't love the idea of just taking a running back and saying, oh, well, I'm light on running back, because I'm with you. Tet's so valuable right now. It's tough for me to really give that up. I think it is that tier break.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to do for us. Isaiah said, didn't Royals go to the Chiefs? Yes, he did. 3rd round. Really nice draft capital there for him. So we'll see how that goes. All right. We'll answer this one last one just because he came back from Easton and then we'll get out of here. He said, got offered the 106, 205, 305 for the 104 in a 12-man league. What are your thoughts? I mean, what are we talking here?
Depends
right?
on what I need.
Yeah. But I don't even know if it's dependent on, I mean, if you have holes, I don't know if I'd want to give up the 205 and the 305. If you have holes on your team and you need those picks. Overall, I think, I don't know, how much do you think of a difference it is in Henderson to Cam Ward? If you think that's a solid difference, then yeah, I would do that. But do you need to move up for Cam? Well, do you need to move back? I don't know. I'm confusing myself here a little bit.
Yeah, he's getting the pick package is the way I read it. So if I'm a rebuilding team, I'm probably contemplating that. But if I'm sitting at the 104 and I need a running back or a wide receiver or possibly a quarterback and Cam Ward's available, then I'm sticking and picking.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, he said he's getting the package. Yeah, I'm with you there. If I'm rebuilding, I'm probably sticking and picking. But if I'm moving off the 104, I could be swayed if you really have a lot of holes. But again, quarterback is so valuable that like I feel like you might be able to get more. I mean, you might be able to take Cam Ward and get more than what you're getting in this trade. I know it sounds crazy, but post-draft, you're talking about a young quarterback, 1st pick overall. Like once this draft is over, if you take Cam Ward, there's a chance like you can move Cam Ward for a running back and a downgraded quarterback, right? Like that would be stuff that I would look at. I'd still probably just take the quarterback there and maybe try to move Ward after the draft is over. But that's going to do it for us, guys. Thank you so much for jumping in. And this was a long stream, but you guys showed up 67 at the height in terms of YouTube viewership live. So we appreciate that. Before you guys leave, we still got 57 of you guys left. Please give us a thumbs up button on that way out. It really does make a difference for us. I think there's a good chance I'm going to go live tomorrow. I don't know if these 2 guys are going to be with me tomorrow, but I know Anthony will likely be with me as well. So stay tuned. We got some more content coming live to you guys, and we'll see you guys next time.